ignite this chain of events.
Yeah, that changes your whole life. By the way, and also, so then the librarian, when I would come, she would give me books, and I would start looking at that little magic section that was between like games and puzzles. I always wished magic would be like not there, like it should be like in art or something, you know. Just so it was always like when you want a magic book, it's always like that silly like kids jokey thing. But there's like, so in that section, I pulled out a book, and I was like 6 years old, and I see a guy chained to the side of a building, staring out, looking like death is upon him. And that was Houdini. And I didn't know anything about what that all meant. I looked through the pictures, and he was hanging upside down and stuff like that. But when I went to sleep, I would have these dreams of this guy chained to the side of a building. And that began my curiosity and love of Houdini. And then that began my curiosity of like, not just like the magic trick stuff, but like this stuff. That's, to me, it's more like real.
Yeah, how do those two worlds collide? Because some of the things you're doing, they're just insane endurance and mental exercises. And then other things you're doing are what you would consider magic.
Right, so I love both separately. Like independently, like I always loved, like I had a karate teacher at the YMCA that used to make us all run barefoot in the snow in the winter in Brooklyn. And all the kids were like, you know, we're young, we're like 6, 7, and all the kids were like, you know, and afraid they were gonna cut their feet on glass, whatever. And I would run in it, and I felt like I could do this because I wasn't good at other things physically. Like I was more at my feet turned in and stuff like that. So I felt like this, I could do these things. So then I learned how to hold my breath. And the reason I learned how to hold my breath was simply because I was on the swim team at the Y also, and the other kids would swim back and forth and they'd destroy me because my feet didn't function perfectly well. And what I learned is that if I didn't breathe, if I just swam, it would save me time because I didn't have to move my head, dip it out, and you know, right? So I would just swim, and the coach would yell at me, but suddenly I was no longer in last place. I was like now second and sometimes first. And that began my like, oh God, you can actually do what the coach doesn't think is possible. You can swim there and back without breathing. And then the older kids would come to see me do that, and I would like challenge them. I'd be like, let's see who can stand it the longest and go up and down 5 times. I didn't understand the physiology of it, that like going up and down doesn't help. It's more effective to just sit through the pain and just kind of chill. But I would just sit there and they'd go up and down and come back down, which makes it worse. And then they'd be out, and I'd
Why
still
does it make it worse?
Because the breath holding thing is all about like a CO2 buildup in your bloodstream, and it's about a tolerance level to it. So if you relax and efficiently keep your oxygen and not make the CO2 buildup more extreme, you can actually
doing this telemedicine experiment. So there are these docs in Houston looking at the screen, but there's a delay. And I'm supposed to find her kidney, and I'm like searching around for a kidney. And then I look up, and I look out the window, and I see a 6-foot hammerhead shark right out the window. And we have a guy in the water. And I dropped a giant F-bomb, like, fuck! You know, and all the docs in Houston are freaking out. They're thinking like in a moment they're gonna see her liver explode on the screen or something. And they're like, what's that? How's the patient? I'm like, patient's fine. Got a 6-foot hammerhead out the window.
Yeah, that's got to be really weird. In that thing, in their world. For how long? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So is that the weirdest animal that you saw? Is the hammerhead?
The scariest thing I saw was one night I was taking a dump. This is a true story. The way you do this, okay, number 1, you just pee in the pool, okay? But if you have to go number 2, you go into the pool, because you don't want a floater in your pool, right? That's,
of course,
like Caddyshack. You don't want that.
Right.
So what you do is you don't take a tank. You just take your mask and your fins. And you go down.
Naked?
You can. We had a mixed gender crew, so I wore some trunks, but you know. And then you just go down, and you have to swim. I don't know. It's like maybe 10, 15 feet. It's not that far. And there's what we call the gazebo, which is just a little dome that has air inside. Now you're out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, like with no tank, and you're 60 feet down. It's night. You can't see a thing. You're alone in the ocean, but you can see this little gazebo. You swim to that. You pop in, and then you got air, just some valves. You let in some fresh air, and then you hold on, and you take off your trunks and you just let it rip. But the problem is the fish get accustomed to this.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So they go there knowing that you're going to poop.
As soon as you drop in the water at night, it's like the dinner bell going off. And
Oh,
there's like school.
just-
Yeah, because this is feeding time.
Whoa. And so you feel them, like,
Yeah.
pecking at the back door?
The worst are the angelfish, because that shape, they can get like right up in there.
Oh,
it's like not cool.
boy.
So you take your fin off and you're like whacking them.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So that's all bad enough, but as you're doing that, and you're in the pitch black Atlantic Ocean, 60 feet down, no scuba tank.
At night.
With the sound of the ocean like lapping against the dome. And you're looking down and there's endless black, just a black void. And you're thinking about every single scary ocean movie like Jaws, The Meg, whatever, The Abyss, all those scary movies, right? And you think about all those things that could be down there. You can't help but going through your head, so it's kind of freaky. And then you finish, and you put your mask back on. And I took a big breath, and I went down, and I opened my eyes in my mask in the darkness with my flashlight, and I saw, like right in front of me, this huge eyeball, like about the size, I don't know, of a saucer, like this big,
I had my eyes closed that time.
staring, unblinking, right at me, and I freaked out. I just tore off for the pool, for the moon pool and the habitat. I jumped in there. I surfaced. I'm screaming, and my crew come running, thinking I've been bit by a shark or
Want
something.
some bad guts?
And I'm like, giant fish, and it was a Goliath grouper,
Oh, I've seen those things before. They're enormous.
size of a cow. It's like,
Yeah, hundreds and hundreds of pounds, right?
yeah,
Oh, my God.
yeah. Scared the living hell out of me.
Yeah, those things could literally eat a person.
Yeah, it was big enough, that's for sure. And so just the sight of it scared the heck out of me.
So where were you? Were in the Atlantic?
Yeah.
How far away were you from, like, Florida? Like, where were you at?
We were just off the coast of Key Largo.
Okay, because that's what I was saying. Like, they live down there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an enormous fish, man.
Huge.
I've seen videos of people catching them off the boats, and it seems surreal. Look at that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's one.
It's like a giant largemouth bass. That's what it's like. Like, if you go bass fishing, they're so similar to bass, like in the way they look.
Yeah, now imagine
Jesus Christ, look at that thing.
imagine being eye to eye with that thing in the middle of the dark Atlantic with no scuba tank.
They're delicious too, I bet. Like, I don't know if they taste as good as regular grouper.
I wasn't gonna. So you get a different. Yeah, I wasn't gonna find out.
Look at the mouth on that thing. Good Lord.
I'll tell you another quick story about down there. So I went out for a night dive once, and I spent the beautiful thing about saturation diving like this is you can do basically infinite time, bottom time. You're not limited to like 60 minutes. You can stay out there for 6 hours or whatever. So I was not doing this night dive, and I found this beautiful shrimp. And it was just spectacularly gorgeous. It was like translucent. You could see through it. You could see its organs move, like internal organs, like doing their thing. And I stared at it for at least like an hour. Just held my light on it and just sat there and stared at it. And it was really beautiful. And I come back inside the habitat, and I'm kind of hungry. And the best space food we got is shrimp cocktail. And I pulled the thing off the shelf, and I'm like, oh, that was good. Then I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
You
man.
felt bad because you
Felt
just
bad.
saw the shrimp? Wow.
I ate it the next day.
Great shot.
The next day.
Yeah,
But that for that day, though, you really felt bad.
I felt bad.
Wow. Grouper, you would have felt bad? Like a nice grouper sandwich? You
It
ever have a
scared
nice
me, so
grouper
I think
sandwich in Florida?
I would have been okay with that after. Because it was.
Yeah, I wonder if they've ever eaten people. Because it seems like they could, I mean, they swallow giant fish. It seems like if you're not a large person, they might be able to just suck you right in there. You know?
See, now, if this happens to me again, I'm going to be even more freaked out.
I feel like I've read that grouper have bitten people before.
Yeah.
Like, probably trying them out. Like, if they get hungry, if you're that big, you probably have to eat so much.
Yeah, just nonstop, buffet for those guys. And, yeah.
So when you're down there and you're doing all the swimming, you're using a rebreather?
No,
You're using tanks, regular
tanks.
scuba tanks? And what is the capacity of these tanks? Like how long can you stay down just swimming around for?
We have two, and we can isolate them in case one of them springs a leak. But you don't have that much more time than a standard scuba tank. What we have is refill stations all around the floor with high-pressure hoses. So we have these quick disconnects on our system that you can plug in and fill it right back up, and then you're good to go for
So when you swim to go take a poo, you have to do that? You have to wear the tank, or do you just
No.
hold your breath?
just hold your breath. You're not going that far.
How far are you going?
Like 15 feet or so.
In total pitch black.
Yeah. There is a light on the gazebo, but that's all.
So you see that light out there, and you know if you get to there, that's where you're pooing.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Wow. That's got to be so strange.
Yeah.
What was it like to get back from that? I would probably feel... It seems like it would be real similar to getting back from space.
Yeah, it is. The thing about it, what makes it such a great training exercise psychologically, is if you had to get to a hospital, it takes about the same time from that habitat as it would from the space station. In both cases, it takes about a day. And the space station, you got to get in your Soyuz, you got to put your spacesuit on, you got to detach the Soyuz from the space station, you got to separate from the space station, you got to do a deorbit burn, you got to land, the helicopter's got to come get you. By the time all that's done, it's like a day.
And the Soyuz is a Russian craft.
Yeah.
So we have to use Russian crafts to get back from the space station.
Right now, we have to use Russian craft to go and come back.
How weird is that?
It's not cool.
What happened?
All right, so it's not good. None of us are happy about this, but what happened was the shuttles, the shuttle, let me just say this, is a magnificent flying machine. I mean, what's really remarkable, if you go down to like the California Science Center and you look at Endeavour, we designed that thing in the 70s. Like, it doesn't even have a microwave, right? It's got conventional convection oven.
Wow.
So it's like ancient technology. The flight computers on that thing, your Apple Watch could run circles around. It's like, they're so primitive. But it did. It took off like a rocket. It landed like an airplane. You could carry people. You could carry the Hubble Space Telescope in the trunk. You could do a spacewalk from it. It has a robot arm that you see there. Yeah, there's Endeavour. So that's my flight, actually. That's STS-123. In the middle, that's the robot that we put together.
Wow.
But anyway, it's an incredible machine, and we'll never design anything like it, maybe ever again. Certainly not anytime soon. So despite its technological incredibleness, for lack of a better word, it had a couple key limitations. One was it's not that safe. So we lost two of them, Challenger and Columbia, and we could talk about that. I knew the guys in Columbia, and that was really rough. And then the second thing was it's super expensive because it took so much maintenance, even though it was reusable, or most of it was. It took so much maintenance, it took a standing order to keep it running. We're spending, I think, $3 or $4 billion a year on the program. And there's no way, if we wanted to build something that was going to be more cost-effective or safer, there's no way we're going to get a plus-up from Congress of like an additional $4 billion a year to go do that. The only way really to make it happen was to stop flying the shuttle. So we took a very painful decision, and we said, okay, we're going to retire these things so we can make something new. And we know that there's going to be a gap period where we're not going to have anything, and it's going to suck. But the good news is and the great timing about this conversation right now, is that gap ends this year.
Really?
Yeah. 2020 is when that painful period is put to rest.
And what happens?
We're going to have a SpaceX Dragon.
SpaceX Dragon?
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, we're going to have a brand new ship. And not only the Dragon, we're going to have the Boeing Starliner. And then we have two other private companies that are going to be launching people this year. It's incredible, these four companies all trying to put humans into space with private companies.
Yeah.
And the schedules are just aligning, so it's all looks like it all will happen in 2020.
Now they've done some civilian trips up into space, right?
They have, and that's all happened by paying the Russians.
That's what it is?
For rides, yeah.
Why is their equipment so much better?
It's not. It's the only game in town. Once we retired the shuttles, there was nothing else available.
But I would be like, hey, how well are you guys maintaining these things?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, tell me what's your maintenance schedule?
It's been a little scary lately because they've
Ah.
had some mishaps, right?
Like what?
Well, we had a launch go squirrely where the rocket didn't work right, and they had to punch off. Nick Hague was the American on that. Fortunately, he was fine. He
Punch
walked
off
away.
meaning eject.
Yeah,
Oh, fuck.
yeah. Not something you want to like do for fun.
So during launch,
Yeah,
so you're launching, and you're like, this is not good.
yeah. When it has these side boosters,
Uh-huh.
and one of them got stuck, didn't come off right, and they were starting to spin out of control, and then they punched out.
Oh my god. How far up are they when they punch up?
it's a
Is that what
good-
you say, punch out or punch out?
Punch out.
Punch out?
Abort. You say abort.
Okay.
But I don't. In that case, I don't know the exact altitude. They were fairly high. They were probably. I think they were still in the atmosphere. So I'm guessing something like 40 to 70 kilometers up or so.
And so they punch out and abort. And then are you in like a capsule? Like what are you in?
In a capsule, and then from that point on, it's kind of like a normal landing. If you survive the giant, yank, I think they were pulling something like 5 or 6 Gs, I think, when they separate, or maybe even more. That system when they pulled off, and then at that point you're falling in the capsule, and then the parachutes come out, and from that point on, it's kind of like a normal landing.
Oh, the G's got to be crazy, right? I did a flight with the Blue Angels once.
Oh yeah.
And I think we went 7.5 G's or something like that. It wasn't that bad, but it's so weird.
Yeah.
And you see the consciousness closing in like an elevator door. You see the blackness on the
You
sides.
get so distracted.
Yeah, it's very weird. So that, like in space, like to get ejected, or I guess actually not in space, in the atmosphere. And do you have to climb into that thing before you can abort, or are you in
No.
it already?
There's no time. It's a rocket, and in that case, it's a rocket on the top that pulls the capsule away from the booster.
Oh wow.
Just like we did with Apollo and Gemini. Now, on Dragon and also on Starliner, we've got much more advanced systems that are built into the capsule, and so they push instead of having a tower up on top that pulls you away. They have engines down here that push and fly away. And the nice thing about that is the tower. You actually, if you don't need it, you have to throw it away. You have to jettison it. But that's kind of like needing to use your ejection seat every single time you go for a flight, because for some reason, if it doesn't jettison, you're dead. You can't get the parachutes out with that thing stuck up on top. So that's like a failure mode that if you put the engines down here, you don't have to worry about that. Plus, you'd carry it with you the whole time, so you could use those powerful engines to really get quickly away from the booster, like the Falcon 9. If it's having a bad day, you can
You
use
mean
those.
if it's blowing up?
Yeah, it's a bad day.
That's a seriously bad day. What does that look like? Can you pull up the SpaceX? What's it? Dragon what?
The Crew Dragon.
Crew Dragon. Whoa.
There she is.
That looks like something from the future.
That's the test we just did. That's an artist drawing of it, but this is the final big test we had to do before we actually put people inside, and we did that successfully just a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
So what we did was we lit up those eject engines. There, that's an actual shot. Yeah.
That's insane. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
That looks like a UFO. That's crazy.
And that rocket went kablooey. Not that we blew it up, but it started, once it separated, the rocket started tumbling out of control, and it made a giant fireball. And
Is that normal or expected?
we kind of thought that would happen, yeah.
Well, you were right.
We weren't planning on using it again. There it is. So there it is, separating from the booster.
Wow.
And the booster went kaboom, but it was I think, if I remember right, I think it was 1.5 kilometers away when the rocket went kaboom, and it was fine.
Now, when you guys do these test flights, do they have to anticipate where this stuff is going to land? Like you have
Yeah.
all this giant metal with fire, and you shoot. So, like, as you're launching, you have to take into consideration
Oh, yeah, there's-
what the trajectory is. Wow, that's the explosion.
Yeah.
SpaceX complete successful abort test launch of Dragon crew capsule. Wow.
Yeah.
So you have to think about so they have to calculate what
Well-
speed, how fast the Earth is spinning, where it's going to drop.
Well, that's why, and theoretically, you got to be ready for this any given flight. Now, this one we knew it was going to happen, but it could happen anytime. So that's why we always launch out over the ocean.
Oh, okay.
And that's why Cape Canaveral is where Cape Canaveral is, because if you look at a map of Florida, the Cape is where Florida juts out, has a little prominence that juts out to the east into the Atlantic. And that way you can go due east, which is generally what you want to do when you launch. Or you can even turn a little bit north or south, and you're not going to fly over anybody's house or Disneyland or
Let
anything.
go of my wonder
And if something goes wrong, in the old days, like on the shuttle, we actually had explosives on the tank.
This'll
And there were these
destroy 'em.
dudes, these range safety control officers that would sit with the big red button.
Oh, Jesus.
And if they see you going out of control and you're heading back towards land, yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What a responsibility they have.
We used to go by before launch and meet those guys, look them in the eye, and
Oh, they must look like psychos.
show them pictures of our family.
Don't get itchy, bro. Don't get itchy to hit that trigger. So
give it a potato.
it seems like a crazy way to handle it that the junk has to fall into the ocean.
Yeah. Well, now the Russians and the Chinese don't necessarily honor that. The Chinese have dropped nasty burning boosters on, it's sparsely populated, but they still have dropped these things on like villages and stuff.
Oh, boy.
They're a little less
Really?
concerned about this kind of thing.
Fucking China. God damn it. They got...
But in the U.S., we launch, and the reason that you usually want to launch to the east is you want to take advantage of the Earth's rotation to give you like a slingshot effect. Because if you go to the east, the Earth is rotating this way. It kind of slingshots you into orbit,
Oh, wow.
going with the rotation. And that's why you also want to be as close to the equator as you can, because if you're at the North Pole and you launch east, it's not going to help you, right? But the lower you are towards the equator, the more of a slingshot you get.
Now, did they have to figure out over time where those things were dropping? Did they ever make some mistakes?
I don't think that we've had rockets blow up on the pad and do a bunch of damage. But once they're up and out, I don't think we ever, in the U.S. anyway, had that problem, because we always had the ability to blow it up if there are red lines. And if it passes a red line, you push the button. Now it's all done autonomously, so you have GPS monitors on board that self-destruct if it sees that it's going past the line. There's nobody with the button anymore. It's all automatic.
Oh, wow. And these boosters that fall into the ocean, did they have them documented, like where they're landing, so they know where these things are scattered out throughout the ocean?
They know approximately. And one cool thing was, probably the most famous booster that landed in the bottom of the ocean was Apollo 11, the Saturn V. And it was just sitting there, as a fish habitat.
Oh, wow.
And Jeff Bezos, with his own, out of his own pocket, mounted an expedition and went and got him. Got those engines.
That's when you know you're a baller.
Yeah.
He just throws some money at pulling the rocket boosters from Apollo 11 out of the ocean. Holy shit.
It's like, yeah.
That's crazy.
What am I going to do this weekend? Maybe I'll watch a movie. Now I'm going to go get those engines.
Look at that. Wow.
There you go.
Powerful Jeff Bezos.
And the hard part was finding the right ones. And they got down to they saw the serial number. They're like, yeah.
Look at the image. Finding the right ones, because there's a bunch down there.
Yeah, there was a bunch of Saturn V's.
Wow. And they found the right ones. Look at that. That's nuts. And perfectly preserved.
Yeah.
And then when did he do this? What year
Yeah,
was
so
it?
that's the engine
2019.
that pushed Buzz and Neil and Mike to the moon.
Wow. That's madness.
And you are.
What a crazy image. Oh, that's them hitting the ground? Oh, rewind that again,
But it's
please.
very quick. I started right where the explosion was. There's other ones that's just falling from the sky.
Ignited on impact with the ground. So these people are just chilling, and a giant chunk of metal falls from the sky. Oh my God. That's crazy.
Not only that, but that's hypergolic fuel. So that's like, you don't want to be breathing that stuff. That's pretty toxic.
Look at it, just landed on people. They're like, whoops, sorry.
That's a BRC, big red cloud. You don't want to, or BFRC. You don't
fucking red
want,
cloud.
you don't want to be near that.
What is in that cloud?
It's hydrazine, so it's NTO, MMH, monomethyl hydrazine, and nitrogen pentoxide. It's stuff you don't want to drink.
Look at that falling from the sky. Oh my God. That's crazy. It fell in a small village.
They just let it go.
It is. I mean, that those villagers are getting pretty unlucky because it is pretty sparsely populated. So you're just playing the odds. But we wouldn't do that.
But that has to be terrible for their breathing, their health.
Yeah.
That stuff is going to linger, right?
Yeah.
Probably get into their drinking water.
I mean, the quantities of that are probably not going to be like catastrophic. The bigger risk is getting blown up by it, but it's still not good.
Do that anyway.
So why doesn't China adhere to the same sort of?
They do what they gotta do.
So when you're a part of these expeditions, and you know you recognize that you're one of very few people that ever gets to experience these kind of things. Do you feel like a responsibility to try to relay this information to people? Like,
Yeah, it's part of our job, you know. So when I was at NASA, they would send us out to do these PR events, and we'd go to schools, and I would go back to like Jersey, where I'm from, and go visit all these school systems. And
what
tell
part
the
of Jersey
kids.
you from?
My parents are from Newark, and I grew up in Parsippany.
Mine too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah. Parsippany, I know where that is.
Parsippany.
Yeah.
That's right. I grew up in Parsippany High School.
Wow. And so you go back and try to inspire kids to pursue this pursuit.
And I still do it. So I was just in Israel last week. I just got back 2 nights ago, actually. So every year on the anniversary of the Columbia tragedy, they have a Space Week in Israel. They have a whole bunch of STEM education events. And there's also a technical conference, and then there's a memorial for the first Israeli astronaut that was in Columbia period. So I got to know his family really well, and I go back there every year. And we had a memorial last Friday. So yeah, I'm still, and I think I met every school kid in Israel. And we got to, just try to get them excited about the future, about a bright future.
Well, one of the reasons why I brought this up is I saw a video where you talked about how during your childhood you had a photo on your wall of looking at the Earth from the moon, the photograph that was taken,
Yeah.
and that's what set the seed or planted the seed in your head.
Yeah, right. So I also go out and I do a lot of public appearances and motivational speaking kind of stuff, and I talk about the importance of both inspiration and determination. So I found out when I was a kid that they were taking not only fighter pilots but also like engineers and scientists to be astronauts, because I always was totally super stoked by the whole concept of going into space. But I had a mom that's like scared of flying. She was a typical Jewish mom. She was like, I told her once I wanted to join the Air Force, and she in a public restaurant, and she started freaking out and started soliciting opinions from the other parents. Would you let your son do this? And I was like, oh,
That's
God.
hilarious.
So I never thought, I knew that being a test pilot was not going to happen. So I thought being an astronaut was going to happen. But then I found out that you could do it. You could be an engineer and be an astronaut. And then that was my eureka moment. I was inspired. But to be determined, I got that photo and I put it over my desk, and it was that was my that was the beacon. That was the goal. And I kept working, and anytime I was having a difficult time, I looked up at that point. I said, no, one day I'm going to hang that in the astronaut office in the Johnson Space Center. Still have it on.
That must have been surreal, the moment you were on that spacewalk, thinking about your childhood, thinking about being inspired by it. And
Yeah.
that was like, holy shit, I'm actually an astronaut. I mean, you really are an astronaut. I mean, how many are there?
I think there have been around 500 people that have been to space.
Ever.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Pretty small
That's not a lot. And now with SpaceX, what is your role with SpaceX?
So I left NASA in 2011, and I went down and met with Elon, and I said, hey, I really like what you're doing here. Can I help? And he gave me a job. So I left NASA and I came here, and I worked there for 7 years. Did a bunch of different things. Eventually became our director of space operations. So my team was responsible for operating mission control at SpaceX and controlling. We have another Dragon capsule that we use for cargo, to take cargo, and we've been doing that for a long time, up to the space station and back. And so we would operate in mission control, but we're designing the crew one that we showed you. So we were coming up with the procedures and all the rules of how we're going to use that thing, and meeting all of NASA's requirements, and helping to provide input to the guys designing the displays and the suits and the controls and the seats and all the stuff you need to do. And So that was I did that for quite a long time.
What are your thoughts on this? What's happening now with space travel, where it's transferring into the public sector, or the private sector rather, instead of being something that the government handles? Now it's private companies. Is that a good thing?
It's a great thing.
Is it?
Yeah, because first of all, it's not quite that black and white. In the media, it's all portrayed as commercial space and like these are private companies are taking over. The truth is, at least for the human orbital space flight that we're doing at SpaceX and that Boeing is doing with their vehicle, it's a public-private partnership. And so NASA is working very closely with both those companies, and we're working together. And in a way, it's not really that different from the way it's always been. Like NASA didn't have a NASA factory that built the Saturn V rocket. It was built here by like McDonnell Douglas, and North American Rockwell built if I remember right, North American built the command module, and the lunar lander was built by Grumman. So those were all private companies. They're contractors, but they're still private companies. And what's happening now is just a slight change to the relationship between NASA and the private companies. Where NASA's not micromanaging quite as much as they used to. They're saying, okay, here's our top level requirements. We want you to get 4 people up and down to the space station. That's a bit of a simplification because actually the requirements document is there are thousands of requirements. But they don't go down and tell you how to meet each requirement. They leave it up to you. So now SpaceX has a lot more room to innovate than like North American Rockwell did when they built the vehicles back during Apollo. So that and the other thing that's different is the funding, the way NASA's paying. It's firm fixed price. All these like the space shuttle, when we build an aircraft carrier, it's cost plus contracting, which has been terribly abused and it's been horrible for the U.S. taxpayer. What it says to the company is, it could cost whatever it costs. That's what we'll pay. And in fact, we'll give you a profit as a percentage of the cost. So like your incentive as a company is like to make the cost as high as you can, so your profit as high as you can.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's not cool, but they had to do it that way. Like during World War II is when it started, because like nobody knew how much it was going to cost to build a P-51 Mustang, because nobody did one before. So they came up with this mechanism, but now it's kind of been abused. Now we're using it to do things that we've done before. And then the third thing is that the companies own the intellectual property. So what that means is, like Rockwell, that built the space shuttle, couldn't like build a new space shuttle. Build like Space Shuttle Enterprise or something, and then go sell tickets. They weren't allowed to, but we can. So we're going to build this Dragon. We're going to take Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, 2 friends of mine, are going to be the first astronauts to ride it to the space station. And once we meet our NASA is our number 1 customer. They're paying the bill. So once they are satisfied, we can then go make another one and sell tickets and take private individuals. So really, that's the key difference. And I really think that 2020, we're going to look back at 2020 as a year that everything changed.
Really?
Yeah, because all those dreams of science fiction, like being able to take your vacations around the rings of Saturn, like all the like private space stations, all that kind of stuff that we grew up hoping would happen when we were older, I think it's really finally starting. Because this is the beginning of that infrastructure, that private sector commercial infrastructure and ability to actually get it done.
We're always talking about how wrong we got the future in like Space 1999. Like those, remember that television show?
I like that show. I watch that all the time. Yeah.
But all those shows, like even I think Blade Runner was like now, right? Didn't we discuss this like last year, 2019? Like we got everything wrong in terms of what the timeline was.
The timeline is totally wrong, but I think that the overall direction is right in a lot of this stuff, and we'll get there. I really do believe that if we don't end up killing each other or have some horrible catastrophe like an asteroid hit us, we're going to end up living in space and have that kind of Star Trek future. I mean, I really think that's our destiny, as long as we don't screw it up.
Man, how far out are we looking at Star Trek?
Star Trek might take a while because we got like warp drive and all that kind of
years.
You got to find those dilithium crystals.
Captain, she's breaking up. Yeah, like how far do you think we are? Like if you had a wide timeline of like literally being able to go to another planet.
Well, well, going to Mars is something we could do in a decade if we really, really, really wanted to.
Elon keeps saying that.
I think he's right. I mean, it's not a question of technology. The big missing piece, I think, in understanding about what that would be like is the effect of radiation on the human body. There's engineering solutions we can come up with for that.
This is for the prolonged journey, the 6 month journey.
Once you start talking about, so right now, like on the space station, I took a bigger radiation hit than I would have if I stayed away.
How much of a hit?
The amount of dose I took was not that much. It's like a tenth of a sievert or something. I mean, it was pretty.
What's a sievert?
A sievert. If you take one sievert, then you're increasing your chance of getting the cancer, depending on your age and gender, about a couple additional percent.
Can you mitigate that with supplements? Like, is there iodine you take or something along those lines?
There's some, maybe antioxidants, but I think that's not a panacea. That's not going to fix this problem. It could help maybe.
They say take iodine tablets, right? If you're exposed to radiation, isn't that like something that they recommend?
Yeah, for nuclear reactors and all that. But I think that protects function of one of the organs. I can't remember, but it's not going to solve. That's not going to solve this problem. But you can shield yourself with anything that has hydrogen in it. Is a pretty good shield. So water, like when I was on the space station, I put a big water jug around my head.
Really?
I figured it couldn't hurt. And then liquid hydrogen or even plastic that's derived from hydrogen is pretty good shielding.
Okay, so you could have conceivably a light plastic suit that you wear that could shield you from a lot of the radiation on the way to Mars?
There's actually a company in Israel who's teaming with NASA who's going to fly these vests to try to shield the people. You can also put it in the hull, or you can have just a storm shelter. Because there's basically, when we're on the space station, we're above all the atmosphere, but we're still below the magnetic field of the Earth. So we still enjoy a lot of protection from radiation. Once you go out of that and you go to the moon or to Mars, and you're basically hanging it out there. You're no longer protected by that, and so you're going to take either GCR, galactic cosmic radiation, which is just everywhere out there.
That sounds terrible.
It sounds bad, doesn't it?
GCR, galactic cosmic radiation. That sounds really bad.
Yeah. Those are ions up to iron, so heavy iron. That there aren't that many of them, but when they hit you, they can do a lot of damage. They have a lot of energy. They're accelerated to near.
Gun juice is running low. Gonna need to get some ammo soon. Gun juice is running low. Running low on ammo! Running low on ammo! Need someone else bring wasn't on the menu. Gun's getting hungry. Time to beat. Gun juice is running low. Die! Nothing sucks more than not being able to blow stuff up.
points.
Rack 'em up! Go! That just never gets old. They're dropping like bad habits. Some boys just don't know when to die. Don't you buzzbags get the idea yet? Keep him out for a sec. Freak dogs, bring it on! Juice! Don't turn your legs. Shock and awe. I'm a hero. That just never gets old. Do that anyway.
Near relativistic speeds, near the speed of light. And then there's the solar. Then you got to worry about solar flares, SPE, solar proton events. And those don't come. Those are very like unpredictable. Well, they're a little bit predictable with sunspot activity, but they come every once in a while and they're giant spikes. They last a couple hours to a couple days, and they could totally fry you. They're even worse than
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So conceivably, we could send people to Mars, and halfway there, they get cooked.
Yeah.
So you have a 6-month window where you have to just roll the dice?
Well, so what you can do is you can have a storm shelter, right? Where you put like a lot of this shield. And then if you could detect the SPE, the GCR is there all the time, but the solar events, you can detect them coming, and you have enough warning time to get everybody into the storm shelter.
How much time do you have?
Usually when you first start seeing some of the proton radiation, then you have like an hour, so you got time.
So you're sitting in that thing going 48 minutes from now, it's coming.
Yeah, and you're just like hunkering down there, probably grabbing all the water bottles you can.
Wow.
Yeah.
And depending upon how big the ejection is, you don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah. It could be at different magnitudes and different
And
durations.
it could just kill you even if you don't have the shield.
I mean, if it's a really huge one, and we didn't really have any capability of defending from it when we did Apollo. And it was between 2 Apollo missions, there was one of these big ones.
Oh, boy.
And we just got lucky that it was in so.
That seems crazy. What a nutty roll of the dice.
Yeah, but again, there's and we keep getting smarter about it, and I think, you know, for like right now, we can send you to Mars and bring you back, and probabilistically speaking, you probably have like an additional 4 or 5% chance of developing cancer in your lifetime, which is not like a death sentence, but we're getting better. And the thing about it, there's 2 things about it. One, we keep getting better technologies, better shielding. We can actually come up with there's ways you can do active shielding with magnetic. You can create your own magnetic field around the ship, and so it'll almost be like Star Trek, or like a force field or shields or whatever. So there's ways that maybe we can do that. There's also the other thing that we don't know. We know exactly what radiation is out there. We don't know exactly what that radiation does to humans. The best we have to go on is like data from some of the atomic bomb simulators, radiation workers. They're working on power plants and stuff that takes with those. That's a different kind of radiation. So right now, the error bars are really big. So when we say like, 5% chance of cancer, that's taking a very conservative estimate. If we can find out what it really does to humans, maybe it's a lot more benign, and maybe we can sharpen that pencil and say, yeah, it's acceptable.
What if people come back smarter? What if it's like some fucking X-Men type shit?
Yeah, maybe you could like.
You know?
I mean, radiation is always bad in real life, but always good in comic books,
Yeah.
right?
We
Think
wouldn't have
about it.
Spider-Man if we
The Hulk, Spider-Man,
Yeah.
so many superheroes that were involved in some sort of an accident. Wasn't Dr. Manhattan? Wasn't that a thing with him as well?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I
know,
think from The Watchmen, I think he became who he is because of an accident.
The document, I believe so.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that, I was up, I had my kids after I did that flight. So I'm hoping that they were like one
Those
day.
are genius kids.
Yeah.
How old are your kids now?
I got a 9-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl.
Noticing anything unusual about them?
I did notice one day the 2-year-old girl was concentrating on her blocks and one of them started floating.
Man. So what changes have been made since you go from the old shuttle model of that technology to the SpaceX Dragon?
Probably the single biggest change is we've gotten a lot better at electronics and software. So the vehicle is highly automated, and that's why we can fly like normal people that don't have like years and years of training. Because it's so much more smarter than the shuttle. The shuttle
You
was,
shouldn't say so much more smarter. Because you're such a genius. You're not supposed to use language like that. You're a goddamn astronaut. So much more smarter?
yeah, all right.
That sounds like something I would say. You gotta talk better than that, bro.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, though. Sorry to
was-
interrupt you.
That was math was always my thing. My verbal SATs weren't that spectacular, but yeah. So it's much more smarter.
And what about there was always an issue with the tiles, right? With the re-entry tiles, like, and then that's what did Challenger, or no, which one was
Columbia,
it? Columbia.
yeah.
That's what did Columbia. And the new design, have they made advances in how that stuff is applied, or is it a different surface they use?